What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFon Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. How do we truly find hope in a world struggling with anxiety and disconnection? Today on Grasp Confidence, I meet with Dr. Lindsay Frey, a licensed clinical psychologist, speaker, and podcast host, and she's the founder of Finding Hope Wellness Center. Lindsay specializes in supporting children, teens, and young adults through challenges like ADHD, anxiety, and self-esteem issues. She leads a thriving practice and designs intentional wellness retreats that inspire real rest and renewal. As the host of Mental Health Without Borders, she explores mental health through a global lens, interviewing therapists worldwide, sharing practical, cultural grounded insight. Join us for an inspiring conversation on entrepreneurship, travel, faith, and everywhere in between, as Lindsay is on a mission to create spaces where people can heal, grow, and confidently embrace hope. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, it's quite an intro for quite an amazing lady.
Mhm.
You know, we met online and I was instantly blown away by your work. Your content is so inspiring. You're really moving people and changing lives. And I love the fact that you help professionals navigate this crazy world of parenthood because
Mhm.
we're never given a manual, Lindsay.
Exactly. We're really not. And there's so many passions that I have. So I really just honestly love everything that I'm doing right now. They all come from my passion and from my values, and I would say my mission and my purpose. And so it's really neat to feel like you are on that path that was meant for you. And it didn't always feel that way. I always tried to kind of follow the same path. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm having fun with all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love interviewing people who are aligned with their purpose.
Mhm.
There's nothing like the glow of purpose. You know,
I agree.
you would hear me when I say that. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell when you're interviewing and talking to somebody who's truly aligned with the path they were
Mhm.
created for, and you are in that space. How did
Mhm.
you get into all of this, and how did you decide this was your calling?
Yes, and that's a story, and I love stories, and I love telling stories, and I think they resonate with people in a different way, and so for me, I grew up in a strong Christian household. My grandfather was a pastor of a large church in Cincinnati, and my in Cincinnati, Ohio, that's where I grew up, and my father was a youth pastor, and so I really had a great upbringing with really strong values, which I followed. I was not a rebellious teenager. I really appreciated and took in everything that I was taught from my family and from the mentors that I had in my life because of having a large church where you just happen to kind of be known. But when I was a teenager, prior to some of the traumas that happened to me, I was a straight A student. I I was a little bit of perfectionistic student, but I enjoyed it. I loved school. I loved learning. I was a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader for several years. I ran track, and I had a lot of really good friends in the school. And I just was really involved in my youth group. I ended up starting a Bible study later on in my school and high school at 6 a.m. And we would go and bring a bunch of donuts and meet in the cafeteria. So I really embraced life in the same way I kind of do now, but back then. But at 13, a tragedy struck, and we had a boy in our youth group who died instantly in gym class, which was very traumatic for our entire school. So he went to the same school as I did, and he also was in our youth group as well. And so that really shook the foundation of, okay, life and death this is real and death could happen at any time and life is precious and life is short. And it shifted my perspective like no other, just from that first passing. But then, unfortunately, the next 2 years, I had more friends pass away. I had a friend pass away in 1998, November, a year after the first. And then 1999, I had two friends die in a car accident. And so all were 16 or under between the ages of 13 and 16. And so because of that, it was a different level of coping. The first one really brought the reality of life and death to me who was so young, but then the other ones that followed really made me question things. And I started struggling with depression and I didn't know what depression was.
Mm.
And it's very hard for people to understand nowadays, but in the 90s, we did not talk about depression. I did not have a word for depression. I didn't have a word for anxiety or bereavement or grief or anything like that. That we didn't have social media. We barely had the internet. We didn't have email when I was in middle school. So there just wasn't a lot of awareness or talk about it. And so I heard the phrase several times, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Even from family members, supportive, loving family members. You just got to be happy, be happy. And I did not understand why I couldn't be. And so I did feel abnormal as well. And so I found psychology in a 101 psychology class in high school. And I started reading about what I was going through. And it started to make sense that this was hard and this was bigger than me. Uh, and so through that, I started developing a passion for helping others that had gone through what I had gone through. And I kind of helped myself out of depression. And I started mentoring girls that were experiencing depression. I had youth pastors that were calling me and asking me to go visit girls in the hospital and talk to them about life and future and hope at 16 and 17 and 18 years old. And so it became very apparent because I already had my faith base and my foundation that God was going to use my pain for a purpose. I knew that at 16, 17 years old. And so at 18, I started writing down all my dreams and goals for my life. And I found it last year. I forgot that it existed. This sheet of paper that I had, it was in a senior book. And it said, I want to be a clinical psychologist and I want to work with children and adolescents and I want to help them find hope and healing, which is my theme today that I didn't know was attached to that back then. And I want to travel the world and help as many people as I can. So that from 18 on, that was my focus. And so that's where I know and I have the confidence to know that I'm in my path and calling because of how it ties with my history. It all makes sense. I feel it when I'm in the room with another teenager, which was my primary passion. I wanted to sit across from teens and tell them they are normal and this is hard. And I want to help their parents understand what they're going through so that they can know how to best support them. And so that's been my journey, and I really never stopped. So I received my master's, my bachelor's in 2008, my master's in 2010, and my doctorate in 2014. And I started my private practice in 2018 as a solo practitioner, and then opened my group in 2023. So,
Congratulations. And it's absolutely soaring. You're hiring therapists,
mhm,
you're changing lives, you're onboarding a lot of clients, a lot of people are coming to you and getting real results, life changing, transformational type of results. And I love the fact that your business is growing along with that.
mm,
I want to share with you something. I didn't know we had this synergy. This is
mhm,
so interesting. At the age of 16, I lost my best friend. We were
yeah,
best friends from the age of like 4 or 5 till that time.
yeah,
She had cystic fibrosis, so it was one of those things we knew
mhm,
it was coming, right? It was kind of like the long goodbye. And then she went to a Make-A-Wish, and then the next couple of days it was the end.
yeah,
And I think about that a lot because that really changed it changed me for sure, and then, the next year, one of my other friends died in a car accident at the age of 17. So I kind of saw this simultaneous back to back, I had this grief, and it was an
yeah,
unresolved grief, and you're right, you and I are around the same age. There was no support for something like that
mhm,
back then, and there was no internet, really.
mhm,
And for a long time, I was very open about this in my first book as well. I struggled with
mhm,
anxiety and depression, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe it was around 2020 or something like that, where I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety, and it was the
Mhm.
test where, they make you check all the boxes, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, I think I checked every single one. What is wrong with me?" Right?
Mhm.
And it's these unresolved traumas, these unresolved griefs. Sometimes
Mhm.
we even forget about,
We
you know,
do.
they just kind of linger.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people have this, Lindsay, that, they have this unresolved trauma and grief, and it shows up in their present lives as sometimes anxiety and depression. What do you think
Mhm.
about?
It definitely does. There's been so many times. I mean, that's so true that I've sat with an adult and I have a natural kind of process for my second and my first intake sessions. My first one, I'm getting to know them, their family, their world, their supports. And the second, I'm doing a timeline. And this is where a lot of things come up,
Mhm.
where I'm going back to childhood. We kind of go through the childhood, middle school, high school, college, where they are now, so I can kind of get an idea and understanding of their path. And it really, truly helps me to get to know them in a real way. And so we start to kind of hit those buttons a little bit, and if we don't hit them the first time when we go through the timeline, when we talk about their present symptoms, like maybe it is depression, I'll go, when did you first start experiencing depression on your timeline? And they might say, oh, the first, the last 6 months. And then they go, oh, well, actually, no, 15 also. Okay, well, what happened at 15? There you go. You start talking about that trauma experience that they might not have understood that was a trauma experience for them. And so yes, you're right. Sometimes that they're aware of the trauma and sometimes they're not aware that it
Mm,
was.
yeah, and it can show up and kind of manifest differently for different folks, right? So
Right.
for me, it was, I struggled with confidence for a long
Mhm.
time. It was one of those things. I always wanted to be hidden. I never wanted to be the center of attention. I was extremely shy, and my biggest fear was public speaking. I'm very open about that because I think
Mhm.
it helps other people, right, to not feel alone.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was definitely how it manifested for me. But when I became a parent, speaking of parenting, I realized that if I didn't break the cycle,
Mhm.
little eyes were watching every single thing that I did.
Yes, they
And
are.
the last thing I wanted was for my daughter to grow up unconfident, feeling like she wasn't worthy, didn't want to
Mhm.
be seen, wanted to stay hidden. I saw this light inside of her, and it was part of almost healing my past to break that cycle and make sure that she didn't have that same experience. You
Mhm.
do that a lot in your area?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And even in my own life, my son went through some things a couple years ago. He's 12 years old, and it started just kind of making comments that made me nervous. It was more around the lines of anxiety, but just he was getting somatic symptoms when he was going to school, and so first thing I did was have him meet with somebody, and it ended up being very short term. I think it was 4 to 6 sessions. He was able to go in and privately talk with somebody, and he come out and he felt so much better. He had tools to manage his anxiety. I've given him some, but again, you don't wanna do therapy with your own child, but I can teach him certain skills and breathing skills he's very aware of. He's very good with coping with his emotions just naturally. But it was so helpful. And it, to me, again, it healed that part of me that really needed help early on. And I don't fault my parents. It was a global thing. It just wasn't, mental health was not being talked about, nor was it being offered very easily. Um, and so just to be able to get him help as he needs. And so now he'll go, oh, mom, I've got a hard time. I don't want to talk to you about it. Can you set me up with somebody again? Like, yeah, because I just want him to know it's a place that you can go. It's a confidential space. If you need to work something out, it's okay. And it's okay to ask for that. And it's okay to seek help. And so he knows that he is able to do that. So I would say that in my own life, I've tried to break that by letting him know and just being so open with him and allowing him to be open with me about things that are hard and how I work through things. Um, I don't know how many times in a week he has to hear, "Hey, buddy, this is another life lesson." He's like, okay, what's this life lesson? So, hey, this was a hard thing, but this is how I overcame it. So I'm consistently trying to teach him these skills to be able to get through hard times. Because I think I developed those later. I just didn't have those kind of skills when I was a teenager.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder for all of us, that we're going to experience adversity. We're going to
Mhm.
experience challenges in our lives. And it's about how do you cope with them? How do you deal with the adversities when they come? Because
Yeah.
it's life, it's inevitable, right? You're going to experience challenges. And that's one of the reasons why I love gratitude so much. I do want to
Mhm.
talk about gratitude because I'm already thinking that's resonating with you. I can
Yeah.
see it. But one of the things, with gratitude and how it helped me, it's not to say that you're never going to experience adversity or challenges, but when they come, you
Mhm.
have a tool to help you navigate it. And I like to think of gratitude as my little ninja mindset warrior,
Yeah.
so that if a problem does encounter, if I have a failure, for example, or
Mhm.
rejection, I immediately thank God and say, you know what? That must mean a greater blessing, a bigger thing, larger opportunity is coming,
Mhm.
and that you didn't want me entangled with something lesser. And
Yes.
it's incredible. My mindset is completely shifted since I've started gratitude practices. What
Mhm.
do you think about that? Do you
Yeah.
incorporate that into your teachings? And
All the time. All the time as a therapist and then for myself. So for myself, like you, if there's like say I have doors and I'm not sure which door to go through, a choices, options, and they just shut in your face. It's a thank you, God. You made that answer clear. I really wanted an answer and you guided me throughout that process and I appreciate that. And the same thing with the trials. And I think too with me, gratitude is always attached to my why and that's very, very helpful for me. And so, as I told you my story, when I sit and I have a difficult client or a situation that, it's hard to get through and I might be struggling with it, I just think, gosh, but this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to do. I'm sitting here doing exactly what I wanted to do. I'm so grateful. And so that's where I don't get stuck. This is my purpose. This is my plan. And hard things are going to happen. And you just pick yourself up and keep going. So that's where I really do consistently attach it to I know why I'm doing this and this is important. So even when hard things come, you can get through them a little bit easier. When you kind of have that foundation of purpose and mission and gratitude, I think it's easier to kind of get through those things. And I think too with clients, I work with a lot of adolescents and young adults. And so I'm consistently talking to them about their foundation. So we talk about their foundation, their values, their purpose, their goals and trying to kind of set that up for them in the same way. So as they go out into the world, they have a better foundation when hardships come, when they need to be resilient, and hopefully, using to the resources that they have and being grateful for the resources that they have. So when I do a lot of strengths work with adolescents and young adults, I do try to teach them to be grateful for the strengths they have and the challenges because self awareness is so important to be able to understand and navigate things, knowing, hey, I've got these challenges and then I've got these strengths, but they all are going to balance out. Everybody has them. And I can be grateful for who I am and how I was made, uniquely created. I talk to them about that a lot. Um, and then hopefully that will help them as they move forward.
absolutely, because right now, you know this better than anybody, but
Yeah.
right now, so many people are getting inundated with, social media. They're constantly comparing themselves to people online, and
Yes.
it's diminishing their self worth, their self esteem. They
Mhm.
feel, again, just this constant comparison. And if we don't align ourselves with our purpose, if we don't understand that we are uniquely created for a specific thing, that we
Mhm.
are each loved, that we are each unique, then we can really fall victim to comparison and this, social media pressure, especially for
Mhm.
young people.
Yes.
And I mean, I have a client whose 12-year-old daughter at the time almost successfully committed suicide. This is
That's
a
so funny.
this is something like this is an urgent message, and I wish more parents The world needs to hear this podcast right now because this
Mhm.
actually will save lives.
Mhm.
If we feel, and maybe we can talk about some of the signs as well, right?
Yeah.
Because we are living in a constantly connected world. We're never that far away from our phones, Lindsay. My phone was right on me. And
Mhm.
so many people are living this way. We're on a computer right now. My phone is right here. I've got some other technology right there. We're so accessible, but so disconnected at the
Yes,
same time. And it's killing us.
it is. 100%. You know, I'm my Mental Health Without Borders podcast. I'm interviewing therapists from around the world, and we're talking about the mental health concerns they're seeing in their area in Denmark, in Italy, in
Yeah.
Spain and France, and we're talking about the similarities and differences to the U.S. or to the other countries around them, and we're talking about their mental wellness and their balance to see if that has an impact. But a consistent theme that I have talked with people about over and over and over that they're bringing in from Asia, from Italy recently, from a couple of the places that I've talked to, is the social media comparison on young adults and the negativity of it. And we're all talking about it. We are the mental health professionals saying, please signal the alarm. This is not good for kids. There's nothing good that comes out of this for kids. They're way too vulnerable. They really don't have that foundation built yet. It's like, give them a chance to discover who they are before, even as adults, we compare, but before they get there, because their foundation will be built stronger and they will be appreciative of who they are. But it's almost impossible for them to do that. I know there was a temptation to do that when we were in high school. When I was in the 90s in high school, there was a temptation to compare, but it was to the few people around you in school. Now it's like a global comparison. It's a much bigger deal and it's much more stressful and impossible for them to follow the trends that they're seeing. Just the lives of the celebrities. I didn't have access, maybe in a magazine, kind of, but now they have full access to how they live and they think that that's accessible for them, or that there's, again, something wrong with them, and that there's some lack in some way in their current life. So it is a global trend. And we're seeing that comparison, yes, can lead to depression, isolation, self consciousness, lack of confidence. Even in Italy, she said, I said, what is one of your mental health struggles you're seeing? And she said, loneliness, which I was
Mm.
very surprised. Italy, I think of community. I just think they do community so well. I love going to Italy. And I said, well, what's the factor in that? And she said, it's the phones, social media, and disconnection. She's like, it's hitting us too now. So instead of going out to do community, people just want to stay home. So they're not doing community well, and then the next generation doesn't know how to do community. So we're literally losing some of these things that we had for so long that were so important to our culture. Like, oh,
It's what makes us human.
mhm,
It's what makes us human. And we're comparing ourselves with people online, strangers who share the highlight reel,
mhm,
that share the trophies, they share the wins, they share all the airbrushing that goes with it
mhm,
and all the filters that come with it. But what nobody shares are the messy kitchens, are the imperfections, are the wrinkles, are, the non-polished moments. And we're comparing ourselves with a standard that actually doesn't exist.
yes,
And we're reflecting that back on ourselves and saying, I must not be enough.
mhm,
And to your point, for a young mind viewing this, they don't have the foundation built yet,
mhm,
and they don't quite know who they are yet. So then they're comparing themselves with an unattainable, unrealistic standard of what a human should be like when the person they're comparing it to may not even be a real person. It could
mhm.
even be an AI.
I know at this point, it's real scary. Levels of scary.
It is scary, and it's becoming more and more realistic, and it's gonna come to a point where we might not even know what's real or not.
Mm, mhm, absolutely.
Wow, it's scary world out there when you think about it. And
Mhm,
mental health, the World Health Organization has said that depression is one of the leading causes of disability worldwide. People are literally becoming disabled from their depressive state and
mhm,
leading to isolation, and it's
yes,
a loss of human connection. And again, from our very foundation as humans, what did we do? We sat around, a fire. We shared stories. We
Mhm.
talked. We learned from our elders. We don't do that stuff anymore.
I know. I ran a pilot wellness retreat this weekend. I'm doing a 5 pillars of wellness, and I took my team to Tennessee, and we talked about that. There's a social wellness pillar that I go through, and the importance of connection, and if you wanna bring in the faith aspect, it's so biblical.
Yeah.
Who did Jesus walk around with? 12 people, right? That he was able to talk to, commiserate with. He still had time alone, and he had time of connection, but he sat and had shared meals with people, and he talked to people and more. And so we're meant to be together socially. And for young kiddos, it impacts their development. It impacts their social skills. And so we're seeing that all over the board, especially post COVID. COVID really hurt kiddos' self confidence, their social skills, increase in anxiety, increase in depression. But I'm still working with kids to rebuild the social skills that they lost or to help them learn social skills that they never have gained. And so that's it's difficult because how do they get to the next level if they don't have social skills? How do they get that job? How do they communicate with others? And so there's a lot of loss in it. I just wish it was more restricted. I wish there was more. There is knowledge, but people just I don't know how much they pay attention to it. So when a parent does bring a kiddo in and they're talking to me about depression or isolation, that's my first question: do they have a phone? And are they on social media?
Mm.
And I almost always know the answer. Rarely do I find parents with strict boundaries. I do sometimes. I have got some, but again, it's not their fault. I mean, it's a giant systemic issue. Um, However, we just know. And so I try to tell them, please, if you can limit it, if you can stop it, I know you can, but then they get concerned about their relationship with their kiddo. But at least in my home, when I think, okay, there's only so much I can do outside of my home, but in my home with my son, sorry, bud, I love you. And he can recite it back. What do I care most about? You love my heart and my soul and my mind. Yes, exactly. And that's why I have restrictions, and you'll be able to do it later. It's fine, but not now. You're just not ready for it, and it's okay. It's not your fault. It's the thing that would hurt you. It's not your fault. Um, it's hard to manage. So,
So true, though. I mean, recently I took a break from social media
mm,
and it was amazing. I'll say that, right? So for
yeah,
anybody who's listening, and I'm a business owner, which is not
mhm,
always easy, right? But
right.
you have to put up boundaries. And yeah, I think I can't remember. I think I took 45 days just completely off social media. I deleted all the apps from my phone so there was no temptation.
Mhm,
I stopped using my phone as an alarm clock because what I was doing, Lindsay, ugh, I hate to admit it to a therapist, but it's true. I'll just say it. The first thing I was doing in the morning, I was checking Instagram and LinkedIn
mhm,
and email and all of these things. I totally stopped doing that. And what did I replace it with? The first thing now, I pray and have
mhm,
time in silence with my thoughts.
mhm,
And I realized something. It was a huge distraction.
mhm.
It was a huge distraction, and
Yes.
it was busyness masked as productivity,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
Are you with me on that? Okay.
Not only with you, but I struggle with it too, to be honest.
We all do, right?
Being a business owner, yes, it's like this yeah, it shouldn't be worn as a badge of honor, but we do it all the time with the busyness and like we are productive or productive. And in some ways we might be because we got to do that work, but at the same time, we've got to take care of ourselves and our well-being. And so can you imagine, getting up and having quiet time and resetting and thinking about your day versus getting up and immediately starting just the thoughts about it. You have an incoming barrage of information from Instagram and from email, and I've been guilty of it too. And that's how I get started. And already I'm starting to think and plan and process and problem solve versus just taking a moment. Right, to even just be grateful for the day, to go sit outside, and ironically, like when we were in Tennessee this weekend, that's what we did every morning. Right. So no phones, we put them away. We go sit outside. We have breakfast outside. You can hear the birds chirping. We're in the mountains and it's just peace. And then I go, why don't I do this more often at home in my regular life? Why does it take a vacation for me to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? It's so simple.
Yes, it's so simple, but
Yeah.
rarely practiced.
Right.
And, one thing with parents, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but if you're a leader of any status in your company, you're going to have a lot of information come at you constantly. But again, it
Mm.
goes back to what I was saying earlier. There's eyes watching everything that we do.
Mhm.
And for me, when I worked at corporate, I was a corporate sales director before I went out and did my own thing. My daughter, I remember her hiding my phone from
Mm.
me after work because she said I was on it way too much
Mhm.
and that I wasn't paying attention to her. And she was tired of mommy working constantly. I would work on vacation and I mean,
Mhm.
it was super toxic, you know? And
Mhm.
I didn't set up those boundaries, right? And that's part of what led to uh, even deeper lack of self-confidence, even deeper, depression and anxiety. I didn't set up those healthy boundaries. Now, boundaries, I love them,
Mhm.
right? I
Yes,
used
I
to
do.
be terrified because oh my gosh, I'm not going to please somebody today. Oh Lord, somebody's going to judge me. Oh well,
I know. Oh, wow.
oh well. Now
Going home.
I love boundaries, right?
Mhm. Yes. I really do. I think it's so important. I think I'm a single mom. And so, because I'm also a child and adolescent specialist, it's been so important for me to carve out time for just me and my son. And so, he will do the same. He will call me out because he knows that that's a house rule. It's a house rule from a certain time frame to a certain time frame. No electronics. We're just together, hanging out. He's a kid that loves to go outside and play. And if even if he does, and I kind of like pick up my phone for a second, he comes in, he's like, Mom, this is not the time. You work today. This is not the time. So it's good. It's accountability in a way. But you're right. I have to kind of watch it because I don't want to model that kind of behavior as normal. So you have to give yourself credit too, because if she calls it out, that means that she's probably not also doing it. Right. And so a lot of times when our parents are doing it and we're doing it, nobody's saying anything to anybody. Everyone's just kind of in their own world. And unfortunately, that's how some households are running. But the fact that she sees it and knows it means you've taught her, right? Or that you've told her.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
she knows that. So
I love
that's actually too a kudos to you because my son will do the exact same thing, but it's because I've set up that barrier for us, and I've been able to I'm blessed to have been able to align my schedule with his as well. So that's also a boundary where yes, I know clients want to be seen in the afternoons and the evenings, but I follow his school schedule. And then if they ask me why and they say, "Oh, why don't you have fours and fives?" I'm like, I have plenty of therapists that have fours and fives, but for me, I'm here at 8:30 in the morning and then I leave around 4:30 in the afternoon. I said, but I want to spend quality time with my son. And that's why. And that's really important to me as well.
Mm,
And they don't really say much back to that. So I tell them I practice what I preach in this way. And spending that quality time with him every day after school is incredibly important.
I love that. I love a leader that walks the walk and talks the talk,
Mhm.
set the example for others to follow. That's so powerful, so important.
Yeah.
Lindsay, everybody needs your services. I'm just going to go ahead and say that because the world would be better with more Lindsays, but there's only one of you. Do you only work with people in the Tampa area, or can you tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about who you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a group practice in Tampa, Florida. And so we have 6 therapists here that have different specialties to be able to meet people's needs, especially those time frames, like I said. So some people want to work in the evenings. Maybe if they have a husband that's working during the day and they stay at home, then I have some therapists that prefer it. So they're able to come here kind of easier in the evenings. So we have Monday through Saturday appointments, and we work with children, adolescents, and adults from 4 all the way up till my oldest client is 80 years old. I love her. She's very sweet. But right now, yes, we are all licensed in Florida. So we can see anybody in Florida. We do both telehealth and in person appointments. And I hire therapists that are really intentional with their clients. Client care is incredibly important to me. So this is not a passive job. Sitting with our clients is an active process. And so I don't want to say anything about any other therapist, but there are therapists where there's more processing happening than kind of the emphasis on change. And I believe that you're coming to me because you're having a challenge and you don't want to have that challenge anymore. So we're very action oriented, we're solution focused, and we want to see people make the changes that they want to make in their life in a real and active way. And we want them to know that that's incredibly important to us. And that journey is important. And we'll be with them. I just talked to somebody new yesterday and said, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. This is not something that we cannot tackle together, but it is a two-part process. So you show up, I show up, we're here, and we will do this work and we will move you through this. And I'm sorry you're going through it and it's hard, but we will. We will. And that is my guarantee. So I'm able to take on less clients than I used to because I'm cash pay. And so I'm able to put full focus on my clients. And we're talking collaboration with their primary care doctors, collaboration with their psychiatrists, collaboration with their schools and their teachers, collaboration with their past therapists if they need. I mean, I really want to make the situation, the unit better for the kiddos and the families that I work with and the adults as well. So we just do really good intentional work here in Florida. But to answer your first question, we are licensed in Florida. Yep.
I love that. Everybody in Florida, call Dr. Lindsay Frey, because there's so many parents out there that just don't understand it's an option. They blame themselves,
Mm.
and it leads to even more isolation, and it leads to more depression and anxiety. So I believe, this is the right path. What I like about you and why I have so much respect for your practice and for your work and for your other therapists as well is that transformational quality that you guys really offer. You're not looking to put a band-aid on a broken arm. You are looking to fix the fracture. And that's what true healing is all about.
Mm.
It's not about putting a band-aid on a broken bone. It's about fixing the fracture and making sure it's stabilized and has, protection so that it doesn't resurface.
Yes.
This is the transformational aspect of what you do and why so many people can benefit from your services. Where are the best places to find more about you online and look into what you do and who you help?
Yes. And thank you for saying that too, because it really is important. Like I said, it's sometimes changing the entire system and fixing the entire system. So when I'm working with a child, I am absolutely working with a parent as well to help them, to give them confidence, to be able to help them know what to do because it isn't always so easy for everybody, and that's okay. And so another thing that we do here is collaborate with one another. So I'll be seeing a child, someone else is seeing the couple, someone else is seeing the other child or sibling, and to be able to again help that whole full family unit. So yes, that I love the word transformation because that's what I really hope is that it's a full transformation, but that they also remember therapy as being a positive process and a necessary process. You don't have to rely on it. We want to be here for you, but to be able to help you heal and be able to move forward. And so my practice is Finding Hope Wellness Center. So our website is www.findinghopewellnesscenter.com. And even if you aren't in the Florida area, if you're in Florida, we do accept some insurances. And like I said, we have several different therapists with different specialties here to try to fill the gaps for everyone that maybe would be coming in. We do both testing and therapy too. So testing as well is very important. Testing and psychological evaluations, they help to diagnose the situation or the problem, be able to provide answers for what's happening. And then we give summary and recommendations on what the next steps would be. So whether it's therapy next steps or whether it's accommodations for school to be able to help the kiddo, it's something that we're really passionate about as well. And I do lots of things with that. I even do international adoption evaluations. But if you're not in Florida and you still want to somehow being connected to us, we have a newsletter that goes out every month. We also have articles we're consistently putting on the website to be able to help just provide more information. So if you need hope and healing, but you're not able to see us, and also reach out. I've got friends all over the country that are licensed in different states. So I always tell people, I will be happy to help you. I will be happy to help you find resources, connect you. And that's honest. I have people call and they're like, I didn't know how to find a therapist, or I called 12 therapists, or I didn't know what to do or what kind of therapist I'm looking for. So I actually really enjoy that too. If we're not the best fit for somebody or it's not in our state, if it's from a different state, I'm happy to find resources and help connect people. So even that, we would be happy to help you with that. Psychologytoday.com is also a really good resource just for anyone that's not in the Florida area, where people usually put on their independent profiles online, and that's nationwide. So that's just a helpful resource also for people.
I love that. Lindsay, tremendous amount of knowledge and value today on this episode. Truly, I hope more parents lean into this and realize they don't have to do this alone.
Yes.
But also, remember the model that we are setting, each of us, for our children, for our employees.
Mhm.
There's a lot of eyes looking up to us as leaders.
Mhm.
So keep this in mind, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, if we don't lead ourselves first, we cannot lead a team of many until we lead self.
Yeah.
So important. Any final last words of wisdom? I know we shared a lot.
Yeah, we did. I think as far as the therapy process, just I do want people to know you don't have to have an identified problem to come in. If people are listening and they're
Mm,
going, I don't know. I don't know if therapy is right for me. I try to let people know there's different reasons why people come in. Sometimes it's an identified problem that they want to solve and they want to get through. Sometimes it's a confidential person to process information. So I have several adult women, they just come as needed. So they might have an issue and then they come in. Might be an issue with their spouse or something they're dealing with personally or with their kiddos, and they know they can contact me. It doesn't have to be a you're here and then you're stuck for 12 sessions or 6 months. If there's an identified problem we're working through, yes, I recommend weekly until we kind of get through and start meeting their treatment goals. But you can also process just a confidential person that's outside of your family if you really want to get a different kind of perspective. And then the last thing that I see consistently is self improvement. And so if you're hearing anything about, I don't even know if I have a strong foundation and you're 30 years old, okay, come in. We will help you figure that out. We will help you get to that next level. So if it's just truly, I want to come in and work on my communication or my confidence or my own self esteem. I've had many, many adult women say, I don't know that I have a strong self esteem. And I'm like, okay, we'll work on it. It's a hard thing to say out loud, but I'm excited that they came in. I always compliment them on their bravery of coming in. I know it can be hard to make that step. Sometimes that's why it's incredibly important for us to call people back within 24 to 48 hours because I know how long that people might have been sitting to make that call and how scary it can be just to sit and get the return phone call. And is somebody going to call me back? So that's a really big and a very important value that we have here is making sure people are reached as soon as possible to say, hey, we were really glad you called. This was a great first step for you, and we'd be happy to help you. And if it's not us, we will connect you with the right person to be able to help you. And so that's what I would say is just an encouragement to you seek out therapy. The fact that we have virtual options nowadays is really convenient and nice as well because I still love in person, just to be honest. We were talking about the social connection and I just love in-person therapy. It's my favorite. However, I love the fact that we have the virtual option for people that may not want to go visit an office, may be concerned about going to visit an office, or they don't have time. And so I've seen busy professionals at lunchtime. I've seen them in their car. They're sitting in their car and they're on their phone on a therapy session. That's okay. You're still getting the help you need when it's convenient for you in the way that you can. So that would be kind of my final take is don't hesitate, reach out. It doesn't hurt. We're just here and meant to help you.
I love that. Wow, powerful. Tampa, Florida. Call Lindsay Frey. Love it. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a fantastic guest on this episode of Grasp Confidence podcast, Lindsay. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned into this episode. Guys, let us know your favorite takeaway in the comments. Leave a comment on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, wherever you're watching this episode, and reach out to Lindsay. Take advantage of her available resources like her newsletters and
Mhm.
check out her website. See
Mhm.
if there is something on there that resonates with you. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you can't quite put your finger on it, but you know something is not quite optimized in your life and your family and your household. This is why people like Lindsay exist to help you navigate these uncertainties of life with confidence. Guys, we can't
Yes.
do this without you. So share this episode far and wide with your friends, your family, your colleagues, with anybody who has children, because we never know who is struggling in silence. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care.